Welcome back to Not Another Nux podcast with your host Ajay and Harp, brought to you by Loudmouth Brewing. For the best beers and burgers in town, visit Loudmouth Brewing in Abbotsford. Today, joining us, we have our first guest, Joel Orsted, someone who is very connected to the podcasting and hockey world. How's it going, Joel?
Good. How are you boys doing?
Good, man. Thank you for joining us today. So a lot has happened in the last week with the Canucks, but we'll start with the most recent news. COVID has canceled practice today, and we don't really know the ramifications it can have moving forward. What are your kind of thoughts on what's happened recently?
Jay, you want to take this one first, buddy?
Yeah, I'll jump in first on this one. So when news first kind of came out, I was a bit surprised because I think everyone, as they were reacting to the news, I think they were thinking that a player might have gotten COVID or whatnot. But then as the hours went by, it kind of came out that, oh, this is through like a secondary contact where it's like a potential wife or friend or something like that. So I think people were able to kind of calm down a little bit more. And then when we started to find out that practice was scheduled for tomorrow, I think people were able to breathe a bit of a sigh of relief. But I know for me, when I first saw it, I'm like, oh man, like this is going to push back the start date. This could potentially be really bad depending on who got it. What were your thoughts, Joel?
Yeah, I think the same thing, right, man? Like I was looking through Twitter, everything, and I was so scared at first. I was like, oh, this is gonna screw everything up. You know, I was so excited, looking so forward to Wednesday. But then I saw, especially once they announced the practice tomorrow, there was the sense of relief.
Yeah.
And also I saw a tweet that I think it was Thomas Drance put out. Don't quote me on that, but it was very comforting, I think. And it said, this is what we expected. You know, not everything is going to be catastrophic. There's going to be cases here and there throughout the season. Like, it's going to happen just naturally. It's happened in the NFL. It's happened, you know, in the NBA, but it's how the teams deal with it. And I think, you know, the Canucks obviously made the right decision. I think it was precautionary, right? Like you said, with the second or third party contact tracing. So yeah, it was scary though.
Definitely.
No, yeah. You guys make some good points. And personally for me, I thought that I was actually kind of scared because it took forever just to convince Bonnie Henry to allow this to even happen in Vancouver. Even though BC was one of the first places that did say, yeah, okay, cool. But it took apparently a lot of convincing from the NHL and the Canucks management staff and ownership just to show that, look, we're going to have these implementations in place to be safe. But the thing is, before the season can even start, literally 3 days before the season starts, this hits us. And it's kind of like at any moment, the medical governing staff of BC could just be like, all right, you know what? We take it back. We don't want this to happen. We don't want to take responsibility for any lives being at risk. And especially in a sporting environment, it's so easy for transmissions to happen. And if people take that home, who knows how far that can spread, right? So that is a bit of a fear of mine. Joel, you make a good point. They did announce that tomorrow at 11 p.m. At 11 a.m. they got practice going. With that, that shows me that it seems like it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think if it was a big deal, or if someone did actually test positive, I think they would have postponed it for a few days. But do any of you guys know what would happen in a case where if like a player were to test positive? Obviously, they wouldn't be able to play, but do you know what happens with the rest of the team? Like, would those games be postponed, or like, do you know what the protocol is moving forward? Any of you guys?
I think just going off of what's happening in, what was it, Dallas, right?
Yeah.
With the amount of positive tests that they're getting, apparently, it seems like, yeah, they're going to postpone the season and they move the start date back and they're going to, you know, they might not even play certain games.
Yeah. Do we know if they do postpone like even games throughout the season, are they just going to be a couple days, or is the NHL like said, oh, we're going to put that on to the end of the season sort of thing? Do we know?
That's the thing. Yeah, I don't know. But like with the NFL, so when they were like having their positive test, they would just push the games back. But looking at the schedule, there's basically a game every day for the next 3 months.
Yeah, man.
Right. So like there's not a lot of wiggle room to move a game or postpone it unless they start doing like double headers, playing 2 games in one day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would be curious to see what the protocol is for postponing games.
Well, didn't the NBA do something where they scheduled half the season and there's a bit of a like period where any games that were canceled, they're going to play those games out and then they're going to start the second half of the season. Didn't the NBA do something like that?
I don't know, but that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's smart. The double header thing would be, I mean, that's like a fan's dream.
Yeah.
But player's nightmare, you know?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That'd be sick though.
Yeah, that'd be like baseball almost.
Can you guys imagine if it came out that like Vertanen was the one who was tested positive because he was partying or something?
Don't even start. He's at the Roxy. The poor guy gets so much flack. I actually, oh, the poor guy,
I'm-
Abbotsford boy.
Yeah, I mean, we are very supportive of him, but also very critical of his, decisions and just kind of, we are kind of tough on this podcast. I'm not gonna lie, but the thing is this: when you show up out of shape 3 camps in a row, you're kind of asking for it, right? This is a dream for our athletes, and to show up out of shape when that's kind of your job, that's right. That's kind of, I don't know. It's easy to harp on the guy. But that being said, if it is a situation where he was partying and came back and got everyone else, imagine he got Pedersen or someone like Hughes infected. Oh my god, like he would be. Oh, Twitter is gonna be on fire. So it's gonna be interesting to see what information leaks out. I don't think they're gonna let much out. It seems to be pretty
No.
Yeah, it's all confidentiality. I mean, I work in healthcare right now, and even there, we've had at my seniors home I work at, we've had positive cases, and the confidentiality with staff members is actually really amazing how well they've kept it. Yeah, so I doubt we hear much.
No,
but...
I agree. All right, well, you know what? Outside of that, everyone is really excited about the season starting up. A big question mark, though, is who's going to be on whose line, how the lineup's going to look like. We have so many people in camp right now. But the big thing is, it seems like Green already has a system in place, and he kind of has an idea of how he wants the lineup to look like. And that's been kind of evident just with the scrimmages and just with the practices and everything that we're hearing from Twitter. A lot of the lineups do seem to be similar, but one of the biggest things that we're seeing, and something that everyone is really excited for, is Hoglander being on the top 6 on Bo's line. We'll start with Ajay. Ajay, what are your thoughts kind of with that situation?
I was surprised, but also very happy seeing Greener put Hoglander on the top 6 role. Given his track record, he's always kind of shunned away from allowing the prospects to kind of play in the top 6. He kind of wants them to like earn their minutes, earn his trust. But the fact that he gave him that spot next to Bo was a big surprise, especially on like next Twitter. Everyone was kind of going wild. So I was very happy by that, and kind of seeing his performance in the scrimmages and the practices. I think he definitely belongs up there.
Yeah.
He's very confident with the puck, confident with himself. His defensive game will need some work, but I think that's the benefit of him playing next to Bo. I think he'll be able to kind of do his thing, and I think Bo will be able to kind of take care of the defensive end of things. But I'm super excited to see him up there.
I was just looking it up, and he's been the only player coming into camp who's had playing time, obviously, right, being in the SHL, and he had 14 points in 23 games played. So yeah, we obviously know his offensive upside, and I think as Canucks fans and whatnot, we kind of have a tendency to overhype our prospects. I know you guys have mentioned this on the podcast before too, but Hoglander, it feels different.
I still think Gauntz is gonna be a Calder, candidate one day.
Oh my gosh, 2012! What a draft!
Remember when people lost their minds when we didn't give Frankie Corrado a spot?
Nicholas Jensen, he became our defenseman.
Okay, do you guys remember what's his name? Oh my gosh, it was the Willie Desjardins years, I think.
Oh, Lyndon Vay?
No. Mike Santorelli.
Oh yeah.
Remember Mike Santorelli? Okay, funny story, quick, but I don't want to get too sidetracked, but my dad was retiring from his job for years and years. He worked there, and they asked me like, oh, who's your dad's favorite Canuck player? We want to get him a Vancouver Millionaires jersey from that year that they had that jersey out, and who's his favorite player? I should have gone with somebody, the Sedins or Luongo or somebody who like a fan favorite, but I was like, he really likes Mike Santorelli right now. That aged so poorly. It's such a sick jersey, but it has Mike Santorelli on the back.
That is awesome.
That's like Ajay's Bernier story.
Yeah, I don't feel so bad now.
Oh man, yeah. So getting back to Hoglander, you guys pretty much summed it up. It is exciting to see what he is bringing on the top 6, especially with Bo. Joel, you made a good point where being with Bo will take kind of that defensive pressure off of Hoglander. That kind of frees up Hoglander to do the creative offensive plays that he is known to do. But I mentioned this on my recent article, my blog article about Hoglander. When he does play, he is very hard on the puck. When on his defensive side, yeah, he might not get to where he needs to be right on time, but his forecheck is pretty intense. He's very tenacious on the forecheck, and just through the scrimmages, like you could see him. He was on top of Myers. Myers has like maybe 3 feet on this guy, right? And he was able to get the puck away from Myers and apply pressure. And he did the same thing with Pedersen, right? And his ability to kind of backtrack is pretty good too. He's a pretty good skater, but just, I know that's not the thing that we're most excited about. His offense that he brings, his highlight reel goals, it kind of does bring you back to when Pedersen and Besser first arrived. I'm not saying he's going to reach that kind of level of success, especially early on in his first year. But at the same time, you see him, even the scrimmage, being in the right place at the right time, setting up these cross ice plays through people, you know, setting up on Bo Horvat with these one-timers and scoring goals himself in the offensive zone, at least, and especially in the neutral zone, in their transition up, which is so important in the modern NHL. He's always in the right area, and his hockey IQ, I feel, is out of this world. But for you guys, what is one thing that stood out to you most about this guy?
Joel, I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah. So I watched that entire scrimmage yesterday, which was a mistake on my end, to be honest. Terrible. I mean, let's not rip on the guys, but like, anyways,
that was like a goalie's dream, that game.
Yeah, for sure. No, he looked like he fit, which is something that I loved. You didn't notice him too much, but you didn't notice him for bad reasons, which was awesome to see. And just his skill and, like you said, his tenacity on the puck. If he could, you know, have the speed of, you know, let's say Jake Virtanen and the tenacity of like Motte or Big Mac there, like he's a special player, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the lineup, hopefully come Wednesday.
Yeah, well, for sure. For me, I think the biggest thing that the prospects kind of have a tough time with adjusting in terms of the like NHL speed is being able to make plays in like real time. And from what I've seen, just kind of like the quick highlight, he's definitely seeing the game at a slower pace, which is a positive thing. You know, like he's not trying to make that quick pass or the quick play, and just as soon as he gets a puck, he just, you know, quickly passes it off to Bo or Pearson. He's taking his time with it, trying to set up plays, carry the puck, and you don't usually see that in like a rookie. So I think that for me gives me promise that he might be able to kind of stick around and kind of be able to be productive. But the one thing that scares me, especially for this year, given the condensed schedule, is like I know for these prospects, especially those that come from Europe, playing a lot of games is something new for them, and playing these many games in such a short amount of time. Like I remember when Pedersen came over, I think by January or February, you definitely saw a dip in his play.
He was gassed.
He was gassed, exactly. So that's the only thing that I'm kind of worried about. And given our depth in terms of the top six, I don't know who we would have that would be able to step up if he is productive. But then if he starts to dip like halfway through the season, like I'm not sure who we would have that would be able to kind of step up. And
easy, you bring in Louis Eriksson. not even a question.
Well, it seems like Louis Eriksson is the person that is subbing in Hoglander's spot here and there. I know that is getting a lot of Canucks or Twitter fans pretty upset, but to be honest, I kind of get why Green is doing this. It seems like Green is approaching the second line as kind of like a two-pronged attack type system, where Hoglander is going to be the offensive guy, right? And that allows the top six to kind of and the second line to bring that offensive game. But when they're facing a team that has extremely high firepower, like say, I don't know, Toronto, right? I think Toronto is the only one, or maybe I think Edmonton, but Edmonton is not really a deep team. Toronto's a pretty deep team this year, right? I could see why he would put Louis Eriksson in for Horvat's line just to keep that as a shutdown role. Does that mean Hoglander is going to get benched? Maybe. You know, Ajay brings up a good point. PD definitely looked gassed in the first season, right? Even the second season, I'd say that there was a slight dip in the last few months. But that being said, PD came in pretty small, right? And he seemed kind of like in a kid's body as he does kind of get bigger now. And I know he was pretty mad at Ben Kuzma for asking him that question recently, right? But Hoglander already now in his first year up, he's like, what, 5'9"? He's already over 180 pounds. PD, when he came in, was 160 pounds, right? So Hoglander, he is like a little fire hydrant. He's a bit of a bull, a little bit of a tank. And that's why he is so successful along the boards. One thing about him that I really like that stands out to me is that he's been playing with adults since he was 17 years old, 16 and a half to 17 years old in the SHL, right? So he definitely can be a little bit more, can last a little longer with the stamina and just have a little bit more in the tank than Pedersen, especially in his first year. But like you guys said, with such a condensed schedule in very short period of time, I would definitely not be too hard on him. I'm not going to expect him to have the accolades that Bo and PD had, but honestly, I would love if he did become a Calder candidate. But there's so many good rookies coming in this year.
Yeah. I think I was looking at NHL.com's ranking of top 10 or whatever Calder candidates, and Hoglander wasn't on there. And I was thinking to myself, oh, did he get snubbed? But then, realistically, there are so many good prospects. And when it comes to, again, Canucks Twitter and Canucks fan base, we definitely cannot be too hard on this guy, because keep in mind he's a young man, and he's coming into the NHL, and you can't put too high of an expectation on his head, right?
Absolutely. I hope we don't do to him what we did to Vert, but I hope he doesn't come into camp out of shape either. So yeah, our top line, we still have PD, Bo, and Miller, right? The Lotto line. They seem to be untouched. In the scrimmages, they were just dominating whenever they're out there. But one thing I love to see was just having Schmidt or Hughes out there with them. It just, it's such an amazing package to see. And their flow and their chemistry. But one person that's been standing out much more than last year, and I think it's to do with just being healthy in the offseason and not really doing rehab, is Bo. What are your guys' thoughts been on what's the information that's been coming out about Bo?
I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot in terms of new information. I think he was always, like, in terms of being in that shape, he's always just been really solid for me. But what did you see that was coming out that was talking about how he was coming into the season? Harp?
Well, I know last year he was rehabbing a major injury, right? I think it was.
Are you talking about Ulevi?
No, Bo Horvat. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Besser. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah, sorry.
Major...
Bo, I was like, what did I miss last year?
Yeah, I was like,
no, my bad. I was looking at the wrong note. Sorry. Besser. Wrong.
Okay, yes, Besser I can talk about.
I've been drinking all day. I'm not even joking. I was at Loudmouth earlier today. Was sitting with the owner talking about a few things. I'm drinking a beer right now, so give me a break.
You could tell that I was kind of like grasping for straws, and I had to just eventually throw it back to you because I had no idea what you were.
I'll edit all this out. Don't worry about it.
But no, in terms of Besser, I think he's been kind of like underrated in terms of the way that he's been playing. But his speed is definitely looking like his back, which is very promising. Unfortunately, with the injury that he did go through last year, he definitely was kind of laboring. And on top of that, I think his wrist injury definitely kind of set him back. But so far in this short training camp, he's looked really good. And I'm definitely hoping he's able to get that scoring touch back, because if he can get going, I think it's a huge bonus for the Canucks.
Yeah, with Besser, I've noticed his foot speed has increased. And you're right, like definitely having a full more than a full off season really to do it, to power skate, get the stride up to par again. He looks really good out there, and especially his wrist injury and his shot power. I think he's obviously still working on that, but he's also been working on his two-way game a lot. And he, it's going to be nice when the Lotto line, you have Miller, who's obviously really good on face-offs defensively, and PD, who looks like he could potentially win a Selke in the next 5-6 years, right?
Good point.
And then add Besser in there, and how are you going to score on these guys if they're going to put up goals on you and you're not going to be able to score on them? So yeah, he looks really good in my opinion.
Yeah, no, even in both or the scrimmage that I saw and then the one that I heard, and also just from Jeff Patterson, Drancer, and all the other guys like Dollywall, what's his name?
Farhan Lalji.
Yeah, Farhan Lalji. Thanks. He also mentioned how just the quickness of Besser. The quickness of Besser. I gotta stop drinking. The quickness of Besser. He does look like he gained a step this year, and this is something that we talked about in the last episode where we compared Bo's skating to Besser's skating, and how Bo really picked up his skating from when he was drafted to when he started playing. The big thing with Besser that I really like to see is that seeing him healthy coming into camp, he just looks stronger, right? He actually looks like he's dictating the play out there rather than following and also chasing the play, which is something that we saw a lot last year. And just his shot alone, it seems to be back. When he had a few shots on Demko, I believe he was playing against in the last scrimmage, he was going top corner and Demko was up to the task. But the thing is, the shot, the release, it seemed like something I saw a couple years ago. And I was pretty hard on Besser the last episode, saying that I feel like he might have hit his ceiling. But the thing is, he is so young. He was injured. If he can be healthy, who knows what can happen with this guy. I am really excited about the top line. If they can all stay healthy in a condensed schedule, I think the possibilities are really endless.
Agreed. And just like before we move on from Besser. I think one thing that not a lot of people have talked about is I think he's coming into the season with a massive chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
I know his name had been kind of talked about in terms of trade bait for the Canucks, in terms of getting rid of certain contracts and people just not really believing in him and just kind of where his ceiling was. So I think he has a lot to prove this year, and I think he's gonna definitely turn some heads.
Yeah, and just to add to that point too, Ajay, he his playoff run, he had a really good first series against Minnesota, and I think all Canucks, everybody was saying he was going to be the difference maker in that series, and sure enough, he was one of the difference makers in that series. And then he kind of got quiet in the St. Louis series and the Vegas series, and of course that Game 7 robbed by Leonard. We don't even have to mention it.
Yeah.
But I think he takes a lot of flack from media and stuff, but also I think he puts a lot of expectations on himself. And I think he wants to be this scoring forward and scoring winger who can chip in and make a difference for the team. So yeah, you're right. I think he's got a big chip on his shoulder, and we'll see what he can do on that Lotto line.
Yeah, man. Time will tell, but I think as long as he stays healthy, I think he's gonna be pretty good this year. Moving forward, though, our third line, it seems to literally be untouched since practice has started to every scrimmage. You've pretty much seen Virtanen with Gaudette and Roussel. Roussel is someone that seems like he's really taken a step forward. I know he was injured a lot last year as well. He had a really major injury, but just the plays he's setting up, his speed and the way he's kind of like getting in people's faces, we didn't see that as much as we wanted to in the playoffs last year. But I know this is only practice right now. But the thing is, even just in practice, he seems like he's taken a step forward. But one person I feel like who has really taken a step forward that everyone is really happy about is Virtanen. What are your kind of thoughts on Virtanen coming into camp this year?
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. Just before we get to Virtanen, though, Roussel, I've always liked him as a player.
Yeah.
And I was like listening to him talk, and he was saying how he felt like he came back a little bit too early from his injury last year.
Yeah.
And it kind of set him back. And I thought so too. He's normally a player that plays with a lot of speed, and kind of physical aspect to his game is usually there. But he, especially against Vegas, I think he was doing more with his lips than he was with his kind of actions. And I think people were kind of catching on to that something just wasn't right. So I was pleasantly surprised seeing how well he was playing in the scrimmages and stuff. And I'm hoping that, he's able to kind of keep it up throughout the season. But speaking about Virtanen, you know what? Like coming into the training camp, I wasn't sure what we were going to get. Like I had heard stories of him training in Kelowna, and that, he was spending time with Tyler Meyer, Shea Weber, and all that stuff. And that sounds all great, but you just don't know if it'll translate onto the ice. I've been pleasantly surprised, especially given the fact that coming into training camp, there was a lot of hype around Hoglander, and people were kind of dismissing Virtanen a little bit. And then when Green kind of gave Hoglander that top 6 spot, I was a bit nervous that Virtanen was going to take that as a bit of a slight and just not really kind of play well throughout the training camp. But he's kind of held up to his end of the bargain and kind of played well, despite the fact that he never got that top 6 look that I'm sure he was probably counting on. But that third line with Virtanen, Gaudette, and Roussel, I really like it. I think there's a lot of speed on that line, and they have the potential to pot in some goals. So I do like that construction. The only thing though is with Gaudette, in terms of him being able to take faceoffs, I don't fully think he's there as a proper two-way NHL like centerman, but I think there is room for him to grow into that role. It still might be a bit early for him, but I am anxiously and optimistic in terms of what they'll be able to provide this season.
Yeah. Just to make a point on that, your Gaudette point there, I always have seen him more as a winger.
Yeah, me too.
When I've been watching games and stuff, but obviously the Canucks want him as their third line center and their third line center of the future. But I don't know if he's quite there yet. Don't be surprised if Greener does what he did last year and shelters that line a lot, gives them a lot of O-zone face-offs and whatnot, neutral zone, less defensive work, give them the best opportunity to pot in a few goals. But yeah, just on Virtanen there, he seems to be in skate. Not in skate. He seems to be in shape. He didn't throw up at the bag skate, which is amazing. And yeah, I think it's really good. You made a point, Ajay, that he might have been pissed off by Hoglander getting sort of this top 6 spot right away. But I think for him that might actually be a good thing. I think it's good that he's not being talked about as much, and he's kind of just coming in under the radar a bit almost. You got Schmidt coming in, the new guy, and Holtby coming in, new guy, and obviously Pedersen, Hughes, Besser, Bo, all these guys coming back, and they're being talked about in Hoglander. And Virtanen's kind of just sliding under the radar for once in his career, which I think might be something that benefits him and his ego. Not that it's a bad ego or anything, but kind of deflate his head a little bit in a sense. So I think it'll be good for him. I think he'll have a good season. I mean, what did he put up last year? 18 goals, 36 points or something like that. In the shortened season. So yeah, hoping he can contribute offensively. And, boys, I was going to say, I heard rumors that they were going to put him on the PK. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's huge. I was reading that as well. And to be honest, he's got a pretty big wingspan. He can definitely disrupt some passes, right? He is pretty physical, so he can try boxing some people out, especially in front of the crease. But the biggest thing is, does he have the defensive capabilities? And the biggest thing that he gets knocked on a lot about is, does he have the hockey IQ to be put in a role, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
What are your kind of thoughts on that?
That's for me, I think that's where he kind of lacks. And it's kind of one of those things you can't really teach. Either you have it or you don't. And I think from what he's showing us, kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing, just kind of given his size and his speed and his shot. But I would like to see him in a PK role just to see what he can bring. But what you said, Harp, like he needs to have that defensive awareness, and playing in the PK, I don't know how he'll do, but I would like to, just because based off of his size and his speed, he would definitely be able to break up pucks and even go on like short-handed chances, right? So
he'd be great on the short-handed chances.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. I mean, that's the thing. He's a very north-south kind of player, right?
Yeah.
Up and down. But, obviously that's not going to cut it really necessarily for the PK. You got to have that sense of defense and, stick checking and shot blocking and getting it out. So we'll see. I'd like to see an experiment of it, but obviously there's not much time in the season. It's starting fast. It's going to end fast.
Yeah.
The boys need every bit of help they can get and every point that they can get. So I don't know if it's the smartest idea, but it would be something to be curious about for sure.
Oh yeah. It seems like he's ready to play and he's back in shape. He had one really good play in the offensive zone where I think he shot the puck at Rathbone right in the midsection. Yeah, right in the nuts, and just kind of dangled around him while he's on the floor gripping himself. Right? And then he, cut across the side and then tried to cut through the crease, and then Sutter was able to, knock in some garbage goal home. But that being said, Virtanen does look good when it comes to his hockey IQ. That is a big question mark, right? Just like how you guys said. But just going off of what you guys were saying about Gaudette in the center, I absolutely agree. I don't think he is a bona fide center that could get the puck and rally it to Virtanen or Roussel to make those north and south plays. I think he's a great forechecker. I think all three of them I think Virtanen is becoming a great forechecker. I think the other two, Gaudette and Roussel, are already very good forecheckers. They're very, kind of like Hoglander, very tenacious on the person, on the puck. They stick to the person like glue. They disrupt plays. But Gaudette, I don't know what it is about him. I don't know if it's because of body size. I'm not sure if it's just might be skill when it comes down to just taking face-offs, being trusted to, make the play, being creative enough with the puck to get people open. Because the center has so many responsibilities. I would much rather see him on the wing and someone like, the only other option is Sutter. Beagle, I would assume he stays in the fourth line. But Sutter is the only other person I could imagine being in the center of the third line. But yeah, I absolutely agree with what you guys saying about Virtanen and Gaudette and Roussel right now. Speaking about Sutter, he actually looked pretty good. He looks like he's healthy. This is someone that's always injured. He had one goal. He set up a few plays. Him and Beagle look to be doing pretty good. There's probably going to be swapped in and out of the fourth line. I know they're probably worth about 20 million, just both of them alone. But what are you guys kind of thoughts on the fourth line of Motte, Sutter, and Beagle? And then you have McEwen subbing in and out.
Man, I'd love to see, Zach McEwen get a shot on the fourth or third line this year.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't look like it's necessarily going to happen.
Yeah.
He's either going to be in the press box or on the taxi squad here. But yeah, I like the makeup. Obviously, Tyler Motte's a beast. The guy, penalty killing, speed. He can, move up and down in the top six if you really need him to. It's a bit of a stretch, but he can. He's pretty versatile that way. Sutter, if the guy can stay healthy, that's his biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
I always loved the Sutter pickup when it originally happened for Nick Bonino there. And do you guys remember he was on the power play with the City?
Yeah.
The guy was an offensive juggernaut when he first came here.
Did you like the contract extension that they gave him right away?
That's the thing. I don't think he had done anything yet really to earn it. They kind of were just like off potential.
Yeah.
If you just right.
But the thing is, he did score like close to 20 goals every season consistently before that, and he never missed a game.
That's true.
He was healthy consistently his entire career, and then when he became a Canuck, he just dropped off the map.
That's a good point.
Canucks curse, I guess. guess.
Yeah.
Come to Vancouver, fall off the map, Lou Erickson.
Yeah.
Exactly.
$6 million gone.
Yeah, $1 million every goal the guy gets.
Yeah.
And I mean, Beagle, I've loved Jay Beagle. I love the Jay Beagle signing. I think obviously it was a time when, you know, Benning has to give out the term. He has to give out the money because, you know, Vancouver wasn't a destination when they signed him.
Yeah.
So the contract is always going to be something that is in his way. And I think blinds Canucks fans to his actual play, but I think he brings a lot to the team. He brings a lot in the locker room, it seems. You know, he's kind of like almost like a dad to some of the younger guys too. And yeah, he's just, you know, great defensively on the PK. Face-offs, I mean, what was he last year in face-offs? Top 5?
Yeah.
He was up
Whole
there.
league. And we had, you know, 3 Canucks in the top like 10.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think having him, you know, at the wing, which is what he's been pretty much during this training camp. I think you'll see him a lot at center and more Sutter on the wing. But yeah, who knows? I like the makeup. I mean, it's nothing to write home about. It's a fourth line, but yeah, it's got potential to do stuff. So
It's an expensive fourth line.
Yes, very expensive. I mean, Tyler Motte, that's such a good trade. That's one of the, you know, Jim Benning's most underrated trades.
Very underrated. Yeah.
Thomas Vanek for Tyler Motte. You know, I think he finished top 5 or something in the Hobie Baker voting in the NCAA. I think it was his last year there before he got drafted by Chicago. So, you know, the guy has offensive ability. And obviously we saw it, you know, in
against St. Louis.
Against St. Louis. And
yeah,
he brought it. He really brought it. So if he can do more of that, yeah, he brings that lineup quite a bit.
I was watching TSN's top 25 best goals of the year, and Motte was on it. You know, I didn't
Really?
think. Yeah, I think it was against Vegas where he dangled a few players and then he went back.
I think it was St. Louis, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Was
St.
it?
Louis.
Oh, sorry, yeah, St. Louis.
I think it was on the penalty kill when he dangled Petriangelo.
Yeah,
he broke his stick. Yeah,
yeah, and then he, you know, went. I think he backhanded it in, and it was a great goal. But it was one of those things where I never thought that Motte would be on one of those highlight reel goal packages, right, on TSN
No
or
one
Sportsnet. So, but speaking of Motte, what happened to this guy last scrimmage? Like, this guy just went out. He was a tank. I don't know if he was mad or what happened. Like, this guy was just beating everyone up. He hit Rafferty really hard on the boards. He hit Myers really hard in the midsection, and then he kind of gave a slew foot to Howard in a kind of awkward play, and then he definitely gave Gaudette a slew foot and almost injured that guy too. What was your kind of thoughts of what was happening in that scrimmage with this guy?
for me, it was just careless. Like, I get it if you want to play hard, play physical. You know, like, I have no problem with a player giving someone like a rough ride into the boards.
Yeah,
a slew foot is something that's like you just don't do that. I mean,
so
like, whether
dirty.
in a game or in practice, you just don't do it. So I completely understand Gaudette's frustration and him wanting to drop the gloves with him because he could have got really hurt. I had heard some stuff that, you know, they might have some like underlying tension. I don't know what it is, but they like Motte needs to get over it because that was just dirty, just not needed. It's just really stupid.
Agreed.
Yeah, those are inexcusable.
Yeah.
I mean, let alone in a game, you know, you shouldn't even do it at all. The opposing team, like, it's dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous. And, you know, you do it to your own teammate, like, accident or not, you got to put yourself in a position where those kind of things can't happen, right? You know, these guys Motte's a veteran. You know, the guy's been in the league for a couple of years now, and he should know to put himself in a better position where he can work hard and sure he can still be, you know, like a dog on a bone, and he can do Tyler Motte things and you know, use his speed and his you know, hitting and whatever. But don't slew foot people, man. I mean, poor Jace Howerluck there. Like, do you guys even have any update on the guy? Like, I haven't even heard anything.
I checked Twitter, but nothing, man. Like, you know, he went down pretty hard. He stayed on the ice. He had to get helped off of the ice. Nothing. Like, I asked that on Twitter as well. Like, is there an update on the guy? And I just think with the particular climate that we're in, all medical issues are just hush hush right now. So nothing.
Unfit to play.
Yeah. So I don't know. I also thought it was really dirty. I thought it was like a disgusting play, to be honest. With Gaudette, it was just blatant, right? Like, you could actually see him grabbing him from the shoulder, putting his leg underneath him and just pulling him back. With Howerluck, it was kind of like, you know, a mashup of play. A few players were kind of hitting each other, but at the same time, it was a little evident once you watch the replay. You can see that Motte did kind of do it on purpose, from what I'm assuming. And you know, like, I haven't seen a sweep of the legs like that since last time I watched the UFC, right? Like, Like it was pretty bad, man. And just to injure a player and just be kind of like nonchalant about it and then do it again, I just think like, yo, what are you doing, man? Like get your head out of the gutter, right? These are your own teammates. If there's underlying tensions, get over it. You're an adult. You're playing in the NHL, a professional league, right? And he's doing it against players that potentially could take his role. So I mean, you know, Jace Harlock, he would possibly take Motte's role or Beagle's role or Roussel's role. So it was kind of sad to see because that is someone I was excited about, and just to kind of see what he'd bring a new player in. Apparently, Benny was kind of excited to get him. I know Ajay mentioned that a couple episodes ago, but yeah, I'm actually very happy that Gaudette dropped the mitts and just let him know that that's not going to fly, and we're going to stick up for ourselves. It kind of reminds me of when the Blues, they had a big fight just like this right before their season, and then they won the cup.
Calm down.
So
we know what's next.
Yeah. So you know, I'm just waiting for the cup now. You know, I don't even have to hope. I know it's gonna happen. Just like all Canucks say, this is the year. Right? But yeah, so that's the forward group, and we'll see kind of how things play out. I am very excited about Hoglander. I'm very excited about Besser and Bo, right? Just to see how where things go with that. Hopefully, Mock can calm down and kind of stop slew-footing his own teammates. But we got some new additions on the back end, and the biggest name right now that we got is Schmidt, and it seems like Schmidt is being paired up with Edler. This is something that I thought could happen, but I wasn't really expecting it right away. I know we don't have much time to test out the lines, but we'll start with you, Ajay. What are your thoughts with Schmidt being paired up with Edler?
I'm totally fine with it. But before I get into him playing with Edler, I just love him as a player. Just kind of seeing him, like, in terms of how he like talks and communicates, and I kind of saw him when they had him mic'd up. Like this dude's hilarious, and I never really knew much about him before he joined Canucks, but I just love him. So I'm super excited to have him on our team. But with him pairing up with Edler, I like the pairing. Like Steady Eddie's, he's always been good for us. Really haven't had many issues, and I think pairing him with Schmidt, I think, is a good matchup where Edler can kind of look at the more defensive role, and Schmidt can kind of jump in on the play and kind of be a little bit more offensive in that sense. So I have no problem with the pairing. I think it'll do well. I like them pairing him up with Edler as opposed to with Hughes, because I feel like Hughes and Schmidt are kind of the same player. So I kind of like breaking them apart, and I think pairing him with Edler, you could even pair him up with like Hamnick too. I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I have no issues with the pairing. What about you, Joel?
Yeah, like you said, I love Nate Schmidt as a guy, as a player. He's well respected around the league. He's got quite the personality on him. Funny guy. And yeah, Edler's steady, kind of more that stay-at-home defenseman. And Schmidt can, really get the puck out of our own zone, make that really, really good first breakout pass. He can skate it. He has, a lot of different tools on his toolbox. Yeah, I like it. And like you said, Ajay, you don't really want to see him with Hughes as much, but because they're kind of that same player. But I wouldn't be shocked if Baumgartner and Green put Hughes and Schmidt or Hughes and Myers together, for trailing the game.
Yeah, in a special situation.
Yeah, and then even put Edler with like Travis Hamonic if we need to shut it down or anything. That's the thing. These lines, like, they're a really good outline, but they are going to change so quickly and so often within the game. And it's something I'm really looking forward to, actually, because last year I didn't think that we had really as many options to do that. And with the the additions of Schmidt and even Hamonic and now Ulevi looking like he's getting the 5 or 6 spot here, I really like the decor, and I think I wouldn't say a major upgrade from last year, but I think it definitely is an upgrade from last season.
I would agree. Do you guys remember when the Canucks traded Patrick White to San Jose right before our run? What was the guy's name again? He played with Edler.
Ehrhoff?
Yeah, Ehrhoff. There you go. He had like 50 points or something.
Yeah.
I remember that pairing. Ehrhoff could just go off literally and do whatever he wanted, and Edler was able to play a much simpler game, and Edler had like 50 points that season too, and just because of a secondary assist or primary assists. And I feel like Schmidt kind of reminds me kind of the situation. I know they're different players, but just like comparing him to the transitional game and the points that they'll get, that is somewhat similar. And I feel like Edler is able to kind of sit back and let Schmidt do what he does best and kind of just play an easier game. Otherwise, Edler is always bombarded with so much responsibility. We know that this guy's back isn't the best. He's had some back injuries in the past, and I know that his health is always kind of up and down. But the thing is, he is our number one go-to guy and has been for a long time, especially during the past dark years that we just had. When he's paired up with Schmidt now, it's kind of a bit of a reward for him to play with someone so good. I know the personalities are vastly different, and there's much more quieter, and Schmidt's a lot louder. I loved how Schmidt was asking Green if the back skate was mandatory, right?
That's so good.
But that being said, it just gives Edler more options to play his style of game as an older, more seasoned veteran, and allow Schmidt to kind of be that younger, more tenacious forward kind of player, right? And get those points.
I think with Edler too. I mean, the guy is the greatest Canucks defenseman, of all time, in my opinion. And I mean, points will say, all the records he holds, whatnot.
Yeah.
But with him aging, he definitely has a sweet spot time-wise of playing time.
Yeah.
Probably somewhere between 17 to 20 minutes a night. You don't really want to get him up there more than that.
Agreed.
Risk of injury, risk of just the foot speed. Not necessarily the best player right now. In his older years to be having out there. But I think, like you were saying, Harp, like playing him with Schmidt we might see a younger Edler, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
See kind of more like what he was, in that 2011 run. He's probably not going to put up 50 points, but somewhere between 25 and 30 would be perfect for Edler if we could get that output from him. So.
Oh yeah, and speaking of management of time, especially with our players, someone that will probably eat up a lot of time is a player that was supposed to actually practice today for the first time with the team, and that was going to be Hamonic, right, on his PTO. Today was supposed to be his first practice. Obviously, the practice got canceled because of an abundance of caution, right? But that being said, Hughes has been paired up with Ben, and that's been kind of an interesting pair, right? I can understand why they're doing that, but the rumor is that Hamonic is a person that's supposed to switch out with Ben, and Ben is supposed to be a bit of that extra defenseman in the mix. What do you guys think about the Hughes and Hamonic pairing?
Yeah, I can go first on this one. I like it. I think we kind of saw a bit of a test run with this when we saw Hughes paired up with Luke Shen, right?
Well, good point.
I think Luke Shen and Hamonic are kind of similar players, where they're kind of like a rough and tough type of player, not really known to put in goals, but just kind of play a strong defensive game. And I thought Hughes paired up with Shen really well. It was a very good compliment to Hughes' game. So I think we'll see a lot more of that with Hamonic. I think Hamonic definitely has a little bit more upside than what Luke Shen brought. So I think that pairing is going to be good for us. I think they'll be solid. They'll be good at their own end. And with Hughes' playmaking ability, I think they'll be great on the offensive as well.
Yeah, like you said, Hamonic's kind of that thrift store Luke Shen, Chris Tanev kind of stay-at-home defenseman. I wouldn't say he's, as good as Chris Tanev was last year. Yeah. But he'll eat minutes, he'll block shots, he'll be tenacious on the puck, like like we were saying. And he plays a bigger style game. I'm not sure how big he actually is, tall or pounds wise, but he plays a heavy game, which is super good. And I think he can serve Hughes well and allow Hughes to do his magic. I mean, the guy's obviously a beast, so if he can do that, then we'll be in good spot there.
Yeah, I would agree. One area that I would say Hamonic is definitely better at Tanev would be his shot. So right-handed shot, and he does have a bit of a bomb of a shot. He is 6'2", 205 pounds, right? So he's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, so he is still relatively young. He's about just turned 30, I guess. And, he has over 637 games. He has 37 goals, 151 points. His points aren't bad, right? Obviously, he is more meant for that defensive kind of power, rough and tumble game, as you're kind of saying. But that being said, like I can definitely see how pairing him up with Hughes and making sure that Hughes and Schmidt are separate really does kind of spreads out the offense, right? And it allows someone to kind of stay back and be more responsible on the back end. Hamonic definitely brings that, especially I'd say he would bring that more than Ben. Especially I feel like Ben didn't really bring the hits last year that we kind of expected him to. But with Hamonic, he that's just the style of player that he is. We've seen that many times with him in the past where he just hits hard. He might get injured himself in the mix, but he doesn't let up, right? So I am excited about that. Hughes looks ready to go. A few people were worried about the second year kind of blues. It's always hard the second year because people kind of have a book on you. But Hughes, he looks ready to go. During the scrimmage, he was flying out there, and just like that 2-3 foot area right at the blue line in the offensive zone, he just owns that. The way he walks that line is just so good. You see very few players being able to do that, and I'm so excited to see him in the regular season just bring that again.
Yeah, the guy's a beast. I wanted to just touch on a quick point here, Harp, on Jamie Ben, or not Jamie Ben. Geez, if we had Jamie Ben, that'd be awesome. On Jordy Ben there, I think the guy actually I don't think he had a great season last year. And he obviously didn't, do what everybody really expected him to do. And I think that was largely in part that he kind of got overshadowed by Oscar Fantenberg, who's obviously no longer with the team. Fantenberg had really pretty decent chemistry with Tyler Myers there when he was playing, or if he was playing with Stetcher. And I think Ben kind of just got overshadowed, and he wasn't really even put in a position to succeed. With that being said, I think he's a perfect, seventh D come in. He can play anywhere. He can play the right side. So I think the versatility of his game, the steady stay-at-home defenseman, big boy, obviously. Nice beard, big beard. Love the beard. He's gonna be a really nice 7th D there in the press box. So
expensive 7D, but nice one for sure.
Well, that's the thing with the Canucks, comes down to the expenses always, right?
Our 5-6 spot, one player that I'm really excited about, and one player that gets a lot of flack for $6 million right, a year, or 5.9. Oh no, it's 6, I think, is Myers and Ulevy. I did not see Ulevy being paired up with Myers, but I don't hate it. I think that's a pretty cool combo. I think they'll bring a lot of offensive kind of outlet passes and a lot of chances. What are your guys' kind of thoughts of that pairing?
I like it. And I know I'm kind of in the minority here, but I like Myers. I like what he brings to this team. It's a different element. We just kind of don't have that type of player. Granted, he does take a lot of stupid penalties. I will not dispute that point, especially where it's like every
St.
2 minutes
he
was off for another penalty. But him paired up with Ulevy, I like that pairing. I think Ulevy will need to kind of have a little bit of sheltered minutes when he gets going in the regular season. Unfortunately, like Joel said, like there's not a lot of like room to grow and like allow people or players to kind of grow into the roles. So because there's only so many games and so many points with this Canadian division, and with only 56 games, so there's not a lot of time for Ulevy to kind of find his game. And I think paired up with Myers, they'll definitely have less minutes than the top 4, which would be good, especially for Myers. So I don't know. I don't really have any issues with this pairing. I think Ulevy, I think he'll catch his stride, I think, kind of midway through the season, and I think he'll be a defenseman that I think most Canucks fans will be happy with by the end of the season.
Yeah, like you said, Myers is Myers. He is what it is. His contract, the year is the classic Jim Benning. But he does bring a certain style to the Canucks. Puck moving, his shot. He's got a bomb. Obviously, he's a big boy. His gap control is pretty decent. He's got a long stick, long reach. But I'm really excited to see Olli Juolevi play. He's been a prospect who drafted 5th overall 2016. Canucks fans were like so pissed. Oh, we didn't get Matthew Tkachuk. He's taken one spot after. Like, how could you? And I think when we drafted him, he had a more of an offensive upside to his game, and Canucks fans were saying, oh, power play 1, he's going to be the new Edler. He's going to be so good for us. Sammy Salo kind of guy.
I was saying that.
Yes. Me too, man. Like, me too. That's what I really truly thought. But as he's gone through so many injuries, and the guy's had some pretty bad luck with injuries. And as he's gone through that, I think he's adapted his game, and he's worked on his game to be more of that steady stay-at-home defenseman. And he looks big out there. Watching the scrimmages, he looked big, and he looked strong on the puck and strong on his stick. And again, his gap control, he had a really, really nice takeaways. I think one in particular that stood out to me from last night's scrimmage was against who was it? JT Miller, and he took it away. Miller was coming down the right wing, and he kind of stuffed him, and he made a really good few recoveries too, where he was kind of caught out of position. But he has the hockey IQ, unlike Jake Virtanen. He has that hockey IQ, and he's always been a smart player. The guy just got unlucky with injuries and stuff. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what he can bring, and maybe being like a dark horse kind of scenario here for the Canucks. He's not going to be obviously groundbreaking. He's not going to do what Hughes did in his rookie season, but he's going to be steady, and I'm really excited.
I agree. You guys both bring up really good points, especially when you're talking about his hockey IQ. He is someone that seems very smart out there. there, right? Even during the scrimmage, especially the one that was only on radio, he did take 2-on-1 away. I think it was him and I think it was Miller and Pedersen coming down, right? And he was able to take the puck away and make really smart outlet passes, get the puck out of trouble quickly. It's kind of I see why he would be paired in Myers, because I know Myers is someone that kind of gets flack regarding his hockey IQ and getting stuck in his own zone and, you know, kind of fumbling the puck when pressure kind of gets applied on him and he's not in stride. When he's in stride, I think Myers is great, right? And I do agree with Ajay. I do like him more than most, but Ulevi is so smart. I feel like he would be able to kind of read Myers's play and kind of cover for him when needed. He is a big boy. He's 182 pounds. He's 6'2". That was the last measurement that they did. I think he's a little bit bigger now. This year. Bigger. Yeah, he definitely looks bigger this year. Just with his outlet and transition game on the left side, he is such a good defenseman. I think, is he a right defenseman or a left defenseman?
He shoots left.
He shoots left, yeah. Just kind of have someone with those smarts as our number 5 and 6 spot. And it seems like Green does want him there, right? I don't know if it's pressure from Benning or not, but one thing that Green mentioned in recent interviews is that he wants to put young players in a position to succeed. And it makes sense why Virtanen is on the third line rather than the second line, right? Because Hoglander is definitely not going to succeed in a crash and tumble kind of role. He needs to be in a high skilled offensive role for him to succeed. Virtanen has the ability to play that rough and tumble game. Ulevi, being the number 5th and 6th guy, the pressure isn't on him to eat like those crazy minutes, as you're saying, Joel. But I think being paired with Myers, he will be able to get the points and he will be able to show some positives. And I can see him getting like maybe 10, 12 minutes a game. And to be honest, Stetcher was kind of similar. Stetcher at times was getting no more than like 12, 13 minutes a game. That being said, I am very excited about him. I am very excited about what he's going to bring. Is he going to be a Calder candidate? I don't think so, right? But you never know, right? But according to what I'm seeing online, a lot of people are very excited, and a lot of the reporters said great things about him regarding his foot speed, how it seems to be better than the beginning of camp last year, and his just ability to keep up with the play and his ability to set the tone. We'll see how things go, but I'm very excited about him as well. He was kind of someone that I thought might be kind of on the taxi squad, might be subbing in and out some games, but it seems like so far right now on the taxi squad we have Rafferty, Chatfield, Rathbone, and then Ben when Hamnick comes in. What are you guys kind of thoughts on the defensive bust that we have going right now?
Yeah, for me, I thought Rafferty was actually going to challenge Levy for that spot. He had a couple of really good practices, kind of like you, Harp. I thought Rafferty might have taken Ulevi's spot, and to at least start the season, Ulevi would have been on the taxi squad. But sounded like, and I haven't watched it, so I'll take your guys' word for it, but it sounded like Rafferty didn't have the best scrimmage compared to Ulevi. He just looked just a tad out of place. So yeah, like the taxi squad, while I think the biggest issue with the Canucks this season is going to be their depth. I'm looking at the taxi squad, you can kind of see like we don't have a lot of depth, whether it's top 6 or top 4 defensemen or whatever. If someone gets hurt, like I think we're kind of screwed. So the taxi squad is what it is. I think Raph might be able to give us some solid minutes. Chatfield and Rathbone, I still think they're a little bit away from kind of really making an impact. Yeah, I have no issues with them. I mean, like they are what they are. I think Ben will probably get the most minutes out of that taxi squad, though. Like realistically, I don't think the other 3 will be getting a lot of time.
Yeah, I think Rafferty and Rathbone and Chatfield specifically, Jim Benning thinks really highly of these defensemen, and rightfully so. They got upside, especially Rathbone and Rafferty. Yeah. They're pretty young, and I mean Rafferty had a great year in the A last year in the AHL there. But I think the Hamonic signing was super smart, or I guess PTO, they haven't really signed him yet. But if they can get him, kind of have. they kind of have, but not officially, obviously. Yeah. But he's gonna be steady there, and I think it's better that we don't have 2 or 3 rookies on the on the D core, because that really wouldn't look good. It wouldn't be a good look for the Canucks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that taxi squad. But yeah, you're right. It looks a little weak. Even the forward group is not looking necessarily great. But I wanted to mention actually somebody who's probably going to be on the taxi squad or either buried in the AHL, we'll see, is Sven Berchi. I feel for this guy, man. He had concussion issues. And it seems like recently he's been a tough guy to work with. I've heard rumors of that, obviously. But yeah, he what happened to the guy? He was a steady top 6 player for the Canucks, playing with Bo for a couple of years there. And he just injuries fell off. But yeah, he's somebody that I'd like to see on the taxi squad. I don't know if you guys even remember this, but he even came in last year for a couple games, and I think he had like 2 power play points or something. 2 assists on the power play.
Yeah.
So he's somebody that, you know, is pretty good depth there. So he's like one player I'm kind of, you know, hoping can get some time, but also not, because if he does, that means somebody's injured. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. Just kind of going back to the Rafferty and Chatfield situation for a bit, just with their age, I think Rafferty is close to like 26 now too. So he is kind of hitting that age where you kind of want him either to make it or maybe get some potential, you know, something out of him, right? He is insurance, you know, you can always bring him up. If someone gets injured, he is kind of reliable to bring up. Chatfield, yeah, I mean, I just don't think he's made the strides that we kind of want him to. I think how Ajay said, Benny is very high on these guys. But when it comes to Rathbone, he does seem a little out of place. Rathbone, I think, is someone that just isn't ready to take that step. He's close. He's played. You know, we know he can block shots. Vertanen made that evident, right? he knows how to dangle. The scrimmage that was on TV, he did a great job of getting the puck to the net, shooting. Right, he does generate offense, but he is a little young still, and it seems like he still needs more seasoning in the A. But going off of what you're saying, Joel, when it comes to Berchi, yeah, you make a really good point. I do feel for the guy too. It seems like he has had a lot of issues with his personality and just kind of with his demands and people not really liking him, getting along with him, especially management. But at the same time, yeah, when it comes to concussions, you know, he's got a young family. He's definitely seen some hardships, and you are kind of rooting for the guy. I wish he was on the team because we are paying him like $3 million, I think, right?
Yeah,
close to that.
Yeah, and it would be awesome to see him in the line, right? Like I could see him even if we threw him on the fourth line, like over Beagle or something. I'm not saying he would be effective in that role, but I feel like he would bring some points in the second line. To be honest, if you ask me honestly, whether it's Pearson or Berchi, who would be better, I'm not really sure who to pick. You know, I would say Pearson just because of what's happened recently. But okay, you know, let's just go there right now. Hypothetically, say going off what you're saying, Joel, like with Berchi and you know, we have Pearson now on the second line. If we had to pick between those two, who would you pick right now?
Really tough question, actually. That's the thing. I'd still pick Tanner Pearson, mostly just because of his chemistry with Bo. Those two click, you know, their off ice chemistry, their on ice chemistry is really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think he complements Bo's game really well. He's a big body. And I think that's actually the difference between him and Berchi is the size, really. And you know, Berchi has had chemistry with Bo in the past too. But I just don't see him being a fit there.
Yeah.
But you know, he is somebody that I would like to see slotted in if there are injuries to the top six.
Yeah.
Because I think he can be effective in that role. Great playmaker. He can set up goals. He's a really good passer. I remember Besser's rookie year goal against Matt Murray. He kicked the puck to Besser. It was a really, really nice kick pass there. You know, he's got the IQ.
Yeah.
He's got the skill. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna crack the roster. So
I don't think so either.
I'd pick Tanner Pearson there.
How about you, Ajay?
For me, it's definitely Pearson, but I think where I see him in terms of where he slots into the top six, I think if Hoglander, how we were talking about, if he starts to kind of drift off a little bit, I think instead of Louis coming into the top six, I could see Swen. I think that makes a lot more sense. I think you have that chemistry with Bo, and you don't have that drop off with Louis' lack of speed, because I think like Berchi can still kind of bring it in terms of keeping up with Bo and Pearson. So I think if we do see him in the top six, I think it'll be in for Hoglander just to kind of give him a rest, if assuming, you know, he needs it and, you know, we see his play dip a bit. But I do think he'll start on the taxi squad. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see him in the lineup at some point.
Oh yeah, no, I would agree, especially looking at our forward depth right now. He's up there, right? We don't really have many options. So especially with a cap, I'm not really sure how many people we can have in the mix.
That's true.
So we'll kind of see what happens and go from there. But season is hopefully only 3 days away. Starts on Wednesday. If COVID doesn't derail our plans, and you know, hopefully Vertanen or someone else didn't get everyone sick, right? You know, I'm really excited for the first game. I think the first two games are against Edmonton back to back, and then we'll kind of see what happens. But I feel like Canucks have a really good chance of being one of the perennial, you know, playoff teams in the North Division. We'll just kind of end off with this segment. Joel, what are your kind of thoughts on the Canucks' chances in the North Division?
Yeah, I like them. You know, I'm really excited to watch the North Division, the Canadian, or what's it called now, the North Scotiabank Division.
Yeah.
Don't forget that sponsor name.
Yeah, you can't forget to drop the
Yeah.
sponsor there. But no, I'm really looking forward to watching everybody play. And you know, I think we're gonna get to see more Leafs games, more Oilers games. I love when the Canucks play the Leafs. I really do, and I think we get 9 of them this year.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm really excited to see that. But yeah, I think they have a chance of, you know, what do we have to do? Make the top 4. That's
Top
all.
4, yeah.
And I think it's really doable. But I'm scared to play Winnipeg. You know, we can never beat those guys. We have to play them a lot as well, and we haven't beat them since like 2014 or something like that. So I'm nervous. I'm optimistic, and I'm excited.
So for you, who are your top 4 teams that make it out of the North Division?
Really good question. I think we're going to see the Leafs 1. I think you see the Leafs as high as 1.
Yeah.
And I think you see them as low as 3.
Mhm.
I think second, I'm going to put Calgary. Actually, I think they got a pretty good team this year, and I think Markey can rip all the Canucks gone to Calgary. So I think the Calgary Canucks.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a pretty good season with Markey between the pipes there. And I think they'll be 2. I could also see them missing. I have the Canucks slotted in at 3, coming in 3rd. And actually 4, I see Montreal coming in. Yeah. And obviously then Ottawa, Winnipeg, and Edmonton. I think Edmonton would just miss out.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I really don't like their depth, and it's something I don't like. I mean, I don't really love the Canucks depth either.
Yeah.
But I think we have a better top 9. They might have a better McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah. Top 2.
Clearly the 2 best players in the division.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, even our depth is still better. And I like our goaltending a lot better with Holtby and Demko. They look really poised to have a good season. And I like our defense a lot better. I'm not a big fan of Tyson Barrie. I know they got him, and Oilers fans are pretty excited to see what he can do. Not a huge fan of his game. I was really happy the Canucks didn't get him.
I feel like their problem. Sorry, go. I feel like their problem wasn't offense though, right? Like they got all these players that, like, Barry definitely helps out on the offensive end. I know that they had an issue with transitioning, especially in the D, but their defense was just so brittle. It was so easy to break into their zone and set something up, right?
Yeah.
When they got Tyson Barrie, I'm like, okay, cool, but that doesn't really solve anything for you guys, right? And their goaltending is pretty much the same. Not much has changed, you know? No. So yeah, no, you make a good point.
And especially with
exactly, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think with him being out for the entire season definitely hurt them.
Really hurts, yeah, because I mean, he's arguably their number 1 D-man. I mean, Darnell Nurse, you could say, you know, has better 2-way game maybe, but Clefbaum's really, really good.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a major loss for them, especially like you said, Harp, like that's where they're lacking is defense.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, I think they're going to miss.
I am excited to see Cassian and Kachuk go at it.
That's going to be amazing.
Just to see what happens.
So excited.
But yeah, guys, thanks so much for being today. Joel, thank you for being our first guest and coming today, man. I'll get you one of these loudmouth shirts sent to you very soon. And yeah, thanks, guys. Well, hopefully we can do this again soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's a pleasure to be on here.
And here are the winners for the Loudmouth t-shirt giveaway that we had going. We asked on Twitter and Instagram if the Canucks got better this year and why. We picked 4 winners out of 35 different responses. And the first one was from Mukesh Yoshi. He responded on Instagram and said that on paper they have regressed, but also another year of their core being stronger. I expect a breakout season. I would say that he does make a really fair point. I think on paper, we lost Tanev, we lost Stetcher, we lost Toffoli, especially Toffoli, and we lost Markey, right? So on paper, definitely, but I feel like a lot of the players that we did bring in aren't getting that attention, and I feel like he makes a really good point about our core getting stronger, getting better, and Besser definitely looks in shape. Pedersen looks stronger and better. We just added Hoglander into the mix. Horvat looks ready to go as well.
Yeah, exactly. Plus Hughes as well. Like, we don't know what he'll be bringing in with like another season under his belt. So I liked his comment.
Absolutely.
And then another one that won. This is from from Hockey SW. This person says, better. Love the additions. Not overly concerned with the defensive subtractions, especially with guys coming up. The kids are a year more experienced and developed, plus playoff experience last season. Goaltending will tilt the scale if they can win the division. That's a great point. You know, with the goaltending, with losing Markstrom, the goaltending is a massive question mark. We don't know what we'll get with Holtby. Demko, while he had a great playoff run against Vegas, we don't know how he'll be now that he's basically a 1A or 1B, right? So I totally understand where Hockey SW is coming from, and that's a very fair point.
Very good. We got Felicis LOL, and he said, with the likely addition of Hoglander and Schmidt, the offensive ceiling has definitely gone up. With Ulevi and Hamonic, defensively, they should be at least on par with last season, if not better. However, goaltending is the biggest question mark. If they are average, this team is better. And I absolutely agree. I think our offensive abilities has gotten much better. I feel like our drop-off won't be noticeable at all. And I don't think there will be much of a drop-off, to be honest. And I think he makes up a good point. We lost Markey, and now we have Demko taking the reins, and we have Holtby to kind of help him splitting up the season a bit. I feel like Holtby and Demko will do good, but it is a big question mark. You know, they are new to the system. We don't know how well they're going to do.
Agreed. Yeah. And then the final winner from Ruby, she said that I think that the team is looking better for this year. The core 4 gain playoff experience, which I totally agree with. And so they know what to expect for this season, and defensemen are looking promising. And going off and acquiring Hoglander, I think he'll do well in replacing Toffoli. I think this is the biggest question. I think people think that Hoglander will be able to replace Toffoli in the minutes and the points that he'll be able to produce. So I definitely like this comment. I think that the core 4, with the playoff experience that they've gained, and just that additional year that they have under, and I think this is a common point that a lot of people have made. I think the young core that we have, I think they'll do really well in terms of being able to build on what they've done previously.
Absolutely. And congratulations again to our winners. We had so many entries, but these were the 4 that we chose, and we thought they were the best ones.
And look out for more contests and giveaways throughout the season as well. So definitely love doing that.
Awesome. Thank you. That wraps up episode 5 for Not Another Nucks podcast. Thank you, Joel, for joining us with your great insight. We hope everyone out there is staying safe, and like always, enjoy the music.